The rain fell mercilessly that night, washing away the blood on Sarah's pale face as she lay unconscious in the alley. Jack Miller, a janitor working the late shift, almost walked past her, his mind occupied with how he'd explain to his 8-year-old son why there would be no birthday present this year. But something made him stop. That decision would change everything, not just for the dying girl he carried to the hospital in his weathered arms, but for a grieving billionaire who had spent 5 years searching for his missing daughter. Before we continue this incredible journey of fate, kindness, and redemption, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories that remind us of the power of human connection. Your support helps us share these meaningful stories with others who might need them. Jack Miller hadn't always been a single father working 3 jobs to make ends meet. Once, he'd been a promising medical student with a beautiful wife and dreams of opening his own practice. But life had other plans. His wife's sudden death during childbirth left him with crushing medical debt and a newborn son to raise alone. He dropped out of medical school, took whatever jobs he could find, and poured what remained of his heart into raising his son, Tommy. That rainy night, Jack was exhausted. His shift had run late, and he was cutting through the alley behind St. Mary's Hospital, ironically, the same hospital where he once trained, when he spotted a crumpled form near the dumpsters. His first instinct was to keep walking. This wasn't a safe neighborhood, and Tommy was waiting at the neighbor's apartment. But the abandoned medical training in him wouldn't allow it. "Hello? Are you okay?" he called out, approaching cautiously. When he got closer, his heart stopped. It was a young woman, maybe 20 years old, with a gash on her forehead and lips turning blue from the cold. Her expensive clothes were torn and muddied, but Jack didn't notice that detail. All he saw was someone's daughter dying in the rain. Without hesitation, he checked her pulse, weak but present, and scooped her up. The emergency room was just around the corner. As he carried her, memories of his wife flooded back, her life slipping away as doctors fought to save her. He couldn't let that happen again, not when he could do something. "I need help," Jack shouted as he burst through the ER doors, his janitor's uniform soaked with rain and the girl's blood. "She's dying." The staff rushed to take the unconscious woman from his arms. One nurse recognized Jack from his janitorial work. "Jack? What happened?" "Found her in the alley. She's been attacked, I think. Please help her." As they wheeled her away, a wallet fell from her torn jacket. Jack picked it up, intending to give it to the nurse, when a photo slipped out, a younger version of the girl standing beside an older man in front of a mansion. He tucked it back in and handed the wallet to the receptionist. "Can you stay to fill out a report?" she asked. Jack glanced at his watch. "Tommy. I can't. My son is waiting. But I'll come back tomorrow to check on her." Across town, in a penthouse overlooking the city, Harrison Wells sat in his darkened office, staring at the same photo Jack had just seen. 5 years had passed since his daughter Elizabeth had disappeared after their argument. 5 years of private investigators, rewards, and heartbreak. The billionaire real estate developer had built an empire, but he couldn't find the one thing that mattered. His phone rang. It was his head of security. "Sir, there's been a development." A young woman matching Elizabeth's description was brought into St. Mary's Hospital tonight. Harrison's heart thundered in his chest. "Is it her?" "We're not sure yet. She's unconscious, no identification. But the age and physical description match. I'm on my way." By the time Harrison reached the hospital, the young woman was in surgery. The doctor explained she had suffered a severe head trauma, along with hypothermia and internal bleeding. Her condition was critical. "When can I see her?" Harrison demanded. "It could be hours, Mr. Wells. And even then, we can't confirm her identity until she regains consciousness, if she does." Harrison paced the waiting room, his usual commanding presence diminished by worry. He'd spent 5 years imagining this moment, but not like this. Not with his daughter fighting for her life. Meanwhile, Jack returned home to his small apartment where Tommy was waiting, already in pajamas, his eyes heavy with sleep but determined to stay awake for his father. "Dad! You're late," Tommy said, running to hug him. "Sorry, buddy. Something happened at work." Jack lifted his son, marveling at how much he looked like his mother. "Let's get you to bed." As Jack tucked Tommy in, the boy asked, "Did you save someone again?" Jack smiled sadly. Tommy had heard the stories of his father's abandoned medical career. "I tried to. A young woman was hurt." "Like Mom?" Jack's throat tightened. "No, not like Mom. This person has a chance." The next morning, Jack called in sick to his morning job at the diner. He couldn't explain why, but he needed to know if the girl had survived. Tommy was at school, and he had a few hours before his afternoon shift at the warehouse. At the hospital, he approached the reception desk hesitantly. "Excuse me, I brought in a young woman last night. I just wanted to check if she's okay." The receptionist looked up, recognition dawning. "Oh, the janitor. Yes, she made it through surgery, but she's still unconscious." "Are you family?" "No, I just found her." "Well, there's a man claiming to be her father. He's been here all night." Jack nodded, relieved she had family. He turned to leave when a commanding voice stopped him. "You're the one who found her." Jack turned to see an imposing man in an expensive suit, his face haggard from a sleepless night. "Yes, sir." In the alley behind the hospital. Harrison Wells studied the man before him, worn work clothes, exhausted eyes, calloused hands. Not the type he usually associated with, but the man who might have saved his daughter's life. "I'm Harrison Wells. The young woman you found might be my daughter, Elizabeth. She's been missing for 5 years." Jack's eyes widened. The name was familiar. Harrison Wells was one of the wealthiest men in the city, his name on half the buildings downtown. "I'm Jack Miller. I hope she is your daughter, sir. And I hope she recovers." Harrison hesitated, then extended his hand. "Thank you for what you did, Mr. Miller. The doctors say she might not have survived another hour in that rain." Jack shook his hand, uncomfortable with the gratitude. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Harrison said firmly. "They wouldn't have. I'd like to compensate you for." "That's not necessary," Jack interrupted. "I need to get to work. I just wanted to make sure she was okay." As Jack turned to leave, Harrison called after him. "Mr. Miller, if you change your mind about the reward, please contact my office." Jack just nodded and walked away. A reward was the last thing on his mind. For the next 3 days, Jack found himself returning to the hospital between shifts. He told himself it was just to check on the girl's progress, but something deeper drew him there, perhaps the unresolved grief of his own loss, or the medical instincts he'd buried years ago. On the 4th day, as he stood outside her room, a nurse approached him. "She's awake. Been asking about the person who found her." Jack's heart leaped. "She's conscious? Does she remember what happened?" "Some of it. Her name is Elizabeth Wells, and she confirmed that Harrison Wells is her father. But there are gaps in her memory. Would you like to see her?" Mr. Wells stepped out to take a call. Jack hesitated, then nodded. When he entered the room, Elizabeth was sitting up, her head bandaged, but her eyes clear and alert. She looked up, studying him with curious eyes. "Are you the one who found me?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. "Yes. I'm Jack. How are you feeling?" "Like I've been hit by a truck," she smiled weakly. "The doctors say I might not be alive if you hadn't brought me in when you did." Jack shrugged. "I'm glad I was there. My father said you refused a reward." "I didn't do it for money." Elizabeth tilted her head, wincing slightly at the movement. Then why did you do it? The question caught Jack off guard. Because you needed help. And maybe because I couldn't help someone else once, when it mattered most. Something in his tone made Elizabeth reach for his hand. Thank you, Jack. Not just for saving me, but for coming back to check on me. The moment was interrupted by Harrison's return. He stopped in the doorway, surprised to see Jack. Mr. Miller. I didn't expect to see you again. I was just leaving, Jack said, withdrawing his hand from Elizabeth's. No, please stay, Harrison said, his tone softer than before. Elizabeth has been asking about you. Over the next hour, Jack found himself sharing his story with them, his wife's death, abandoning medical school, raising Tommy alone. He hadn't meant to reveal so much, but there was something about Elizabeth's gentle questions and Harrison's attentive silence that drew it out of him. When Jack mentioned his son waiting at home, Harrison checked his watch. It's getting late. Perhaps we could continue this conversation another time? I'd like to meet your son. Jack was stunned by the suggestion. He'd like that. He doesn't get many visitors. As Jack prepared to leave, Elizabeth called out, "Will you come back tomorrow?" He found himself nodding before he could think better of it. That night, as Jack helped Tommy with his homework, he mentioned meeting Elizabeth and her father. "Is she the girl you saved?" Tommy asked, eyes wide. "Yes, and it turns out her father is a very important man." "Like a superhero?" Jack laughed. "No, like a businessman. He owns buildings." "That's boring," Tommy declared. "Saving people is better." Jack ruffled his son's hair. "You're right about that, buddy." The next day, Jack was surprised when Harrison Wells appeared at the diner where he worked the morning shift. "Mr. Miller, I hope I'm not interrupting." Jack, balancing 3 plates of eggs, nodded toward an empty booth. "Have a seat, Mr. Wells. I'll be with you in a minute." Harrison looked out of place in his tailored suit among the working-class breakfast crowd, but he waited patiently. When Jack finally sat down across from him, Harrison got straight to the point. "Elizabeth told me you were in medical school before your wife passed away." Jack stiffened. "That was a long time ago." "Not so long. You're what, 35? And you clearly haven't lost your instincts, given how you handled finding my daughter." "Mr. Wells, I appreciate your gratitude, but I'm not here out of gratitude, Mr. Miller. I'm here with a proposition. Elizabeth is being discharged tomorrow, but she'll need ongoing care. I want to hire you as her personal caretaker." Jack stared at him. "I'm not a doctor. I'm not even a nurse. But you have medical training, and more importantly, Elizabeth trusts you. She feels safe with you." Harrison slid a folded paper across the table. "This would be your compensation. It includes housing for you and your son in the guest house on my estate." Jack unfolded the paper and nearly choked on his coffee. The figure was more than he'd make in 5 years at his current jobs. "This is too much. It's not charity, Mr. Miller. It's employment. And it would include a scholarship for you to complete your medical degree, once Elizabeth is recovered." Jack's mind reeled. It was everything he'd given up hoping for. But it felt impossible, like a dream he'd wake from. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" Harrison's composed facade cracked slightly. "Because you saved my daughter when I couldn't. Because in 5 years of searching, offering rewards, hiring the best investigators, I accomplished nothing. But you, a janitor walking home from work, did what I with all my resources couldn't do." He paused. "And because Elizabeth asked me to." Jack thought of Tommy, of the opportunities this would give him. A safe neighborhood, good schools, maybe even a chance to finish what Jack had started all those years ago. "I need to think about it. And talk to my son." Harrison nodded. "Of course. Elizabeth is being discharged tomorrow afternoon. Let me know your decision by then. That evening, Jack sat Tommy down for a serious conversation. How would you feel about moving to a new house? A bigger one, with a yard? Tommy's eyes lit up. Really? Could I have my own room? Yes, and maybe even a dog someday. But we'd be living on someone else's property. I'd be working for Elizabeth's father, helping her get better. Tommy considered this. Would I still see you? More than you do now. I wouldn't need 3 jobs anymore. Then I think it's good, Tommy decided. And I like Elizabeth. She's pretty, like in Mom's pictures. Jack's heart twisted. Tommy had never known his mother except through photographs. She is, isn't she? But that's not why we're helping her. I know, Dad. We're helping her because she needs help, and that's what you do. The next day, Jack and Tommy stood at the entrance to the Wells estate, a sprawling property that made Tommy's eyes grow wide as saucers. It's like a castle, he whispered. Harrison greeted them personally, showing them to the guest house, a 3-bedroom cottage that was larger than their entire apartment building. As Tommy explored excitedly, Harrison turned to Jack. Elizabeth is settled in the main house. She's still weak, but the doctors say her prognosis is excellent. No permanent damage from the head injury. That's good news, Jack said, still feeling overwhelmed by his surroundings. She's asking for you. When you're ready, I'll introduce you to the rest of the staff and go over your duties. As they walked to the main house, Harrison added, I've taken the liberty of enrolling Tommy in Westridge Academy. It's the best private school in the city. He starts next week. Jack stopped walking. Mr. Wells, I appreciate everything you're doing, but I don't want Tommy to feel like a charity case. Harrison faced him squarely. Mr. Miller, Jack, let me be clear. This isn't charity. You're providing a valuable service that I'm compensating you for. Your son's education is part of your employment package. If it makes you feel better, consider it a signing bonus. When they reached Elizabeth's suite, she was sitting by the window, gazing out at the gardens. She turned when they entered, her face lighting up at the sight of Jack. You came, she said simply. I did. And I brought my son to meet you. Tommy stepped forward shyly. Hi. My dad saved you. Elizabeth smiled. He did. That makes him a hero, doesn't it? Tommy nodded solemnly. He's always been my hero. Over the following weeks, a routine developed. Jack helped Elizabeth with her physical therapy, monitored her medications, and accompanied her to doctor appointments. Tommy thrived at his new school, making friends and bringing home art projects that Elizabeth insisted on displaying in her room. As Elizabeth grew stronger, she revealed pieces of her story to Jack. She had run away 5 years ago after a devastating argument with her father over her desire to pursue art instead of joining the family business. I was 19 and thought I knew everything, she explained as Jack helped her with her walking exercises. I wanted to prove I could make it on my own, without his money or connections. And did you? Jack asked. For a while. I changed my name, worked as a waitress, then as an illustrator for a small publishing house. I was actually doing well until... She faltered. Until what? Elizabeth's eyes clouded. Until I met someone. He seemed kind at first, but then he changed. When I tried to leave him, he became violent. That's how I ended up in that alley. I was running from him. Jack's hands tightened on the parallel bars she was using for support. Have you told your father? The police? Dad knows some of it. The police are looking for him. She met Jack's eyes. I was so stupid. No, Jack said firmly. Trust isn't stupidity. What he did was wrong, not your choice to see the good in someone. As Elizabeth's physical recovery progressed, Jack noticed other changes. Harrison, once distant and formal, began joining them for dinner. He asked Tommy about school and listened with genuine interest to Elizabeth's ideas for returning to her art. The cold businessman Jack had first met was gradually revealing himself to be a grieving father who had buried his emotions under work and wealth. One evening, after Tommy had gone to bed, Harrison invited Jack to his study for a drink. "Elizabeth's final checkup is next week.